Hello again and welcome to Forum for a Better Understanding. You know, I'm your guest, Jim Grant, and with me today is the person behind this series. This is the 375th edition of this program, and it all goes back to a brainstorm that Bryan Jessup had 10 years ago, sharing with me the idea of a show that would bring to the public faith issues from an interfaith perspective. What if we got people from all the different rich traditions in our valley and they shared around important social, civic, educational, medical, theological, biblical issues that are important to us? And sure enough, Bryan Jessup, who is the Unitarian pastor here in the Church for the Unitarian Universalist community of Fresno, he brought the idea up. Bishop John and Marv Harrison agreed it was a great idea, and we're just so glad, Bryan, that you're here to share one more time. I say one more time because by the time this program airs, Bryan and Edie will be on their way to Arcata, where they will be doing mission work up north in God's country. But this gives Bryan a chance to really share back to our community some big reflections he may have after these 15 years here serving our community. So the opening thought, Bryan, is as you have this program, what is one thing that you want to open up with, an opening reflection about your mission here and the idea of leaving to go to another part of God's world?
Well, my first thought is just to say thank you, Jim, and thank you to the Diocese of Fresno for this great program. It is the heart of our shared faith in the power of love in the universe, to model a different kind of conversation than is modeled so often on radio and television, where you get people who are different, and because it's exciting to have arguments, you have show after show where people argue with one another about their differences, rather than saying, well, isn't it amazing what God creates in the universe? And look at us, how different we are, and we're all children of God, so let's talk to one another. And there's such wisdom and courage in the diocese to do this, because there are ways in which we are different, but we have so much more in common than we have that separates us. And the bishop saw that, and Marv Harrison, and you immediately picked up on it, and have gone to work in your fashion like the Energizer Bunny, and 375 programs. There you go.
But they've been all gifts of God, and also you led us, Bryan, to so many interfaith leaders, so many issues. So over the years, I have to thank you. But now let's give you a forum to talk about Unitarian Universalism. Would you be able to share just maybe the UU Church of Fresno covenant and what it is that this community in Fresno means to be for the rest of us?
Well, what we say is every Sunday, or almost every Sunday, we begin by saying we affirm that love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. We strive to dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve humankind in fellowship, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. Thus do we covenant with each other. So most of that covenant, I think, could be shared by most Roman Catholic people all over the world. We begin with love, and that is the foundation. Since the Council of Nicaea, Unitarians and the Orthodox have had their arguments about, well, how does God really go together? Is it one or three? And you say, well, yeah, you got to deal with the 3 and 1. And the Unitarians say, well, no, it's just all one. But the thing, the fire, the foundation is the commandment that you love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. And we do not argue about that. No. We join together in that. And our Unitarian Universalist principles are a reflection on what we think love requires of us. And so that holds us together as Unitarian Universalists, though we have no single creed. We don't say, oh, you have to believe in Jesus, or you have to believe in the Buddha, or the Quran, or the writings of the Sikh gurus. We don't say you have to ascribe to any of those particular creeds or approaches. What we say is, if you want to be Unitarian Universalist, you must commit to giving your heart to love and justice and to living out our principles as best you can, as best we can together with us. So we share that. We share, I think, that commitment to love, and that is the fire in each of us. I think that draws us together, and we see the light reflected in each other's eyes, whether we're Roman Catholic or Unitarian Universalist or Buddhist or Sikh or Jewish or Muslim. It's there.
One thing that is beautiful about the UU community, it began when I was here at a little site on Millbrook, and then at another point, and there's a whole essay in the Fresno Bee about the Unitarians migrated northward, and it tells the story of the transition from the little church that you were in to this magnificent sanctuary that has become a home to so many great events, to so many interfaith experiences. Can you tell us a little bit, and we have a picture of those, the opening of your beautiful church. Can you tell us about that move and what that change has been for you as the shepherd of that move?
Yes, I thank you for asking. Well, first of all, so our manifestation of Unitarian Universalism has grown here in Fresno, so we have bigger arms, so we can hold more community events. And I want to reflect right back to the generosity of Roman Catholicism. You folks are big in the world. There are a lot of Roman Catholics, and you have a lot of facilities. And wherever I have been, whether I was in Delaware or Maine or serving a church here in California, Roman Catholic retreat centers have been open to Unitarian Universalists and have held Unitarian Universalist ministers on retreat. So just last week, I was at the St. Francis Retreat Center at San Juan Bautista.
Nice.
And the brothers and sisters there were praying for us, and we had a wonderful meeting of Unitarian Universalist ministers held in the arms of Roman Catholicism. And
nice.
That's what we do, is we hold one another. Now, tomorrow, we get to return the favor a little bit. Bill Simon and the diocese effort around homelessness is having a summit meeting.
That's right. And
it's at the Unitarian Universalist Church here in Fresno, and I couldn't be happier. The fire of love and justice in our hearts binds us together. Though there are things that we don't exactly agree on, there's so much we agree on. And so around homelessness, we agree that we are all children of God on this earth, and our systems are imperfect. There are some people who are not treated as children of God, and as people of faith, we need to respond to that and challenge our society. And I am so thankful to the diocese for leading the way on that, because you folks, you're the bigger boys and girls in the sandbox. There's a lot more of you than there are of us. So just talking about the UU Fresno history for just a moment, because I got ahead of myself. Actually, the first Unitarian Church started in 1890, and Dr. Chester Rowell was one of the founding members. And so we're proud of that. But that church fell apart, as some churches tend to do. We know that all of our faiths are imperfect. And so we cranked along for about 30 years or 40 years in Fresno, and then fell apart due to imperfections that I will not go into. But But the church disintegrated. and then in 1953 was restarted around the issue of a free and open search for truth and meaning, and for God's love expressed in wider ways than, and that is the gift of universalism that we practice in a very wide way, that there is a wideness in God's mercy like the wideness of the sea. And so we open up to people, and so in the 1950s it was the McCarthy era, and there was a narrowness then in our culture, and people who were standing up for people and for workers were accused of being communist. And there was a great squelching of First Amendment rights to speak about issues. And so the church was founded really around that. And one of the first presidents of the congregation, Howard Edmonds, went to jail because he refused to give testimony against, he was a teacher, he refused to give testimony against other teachers who were organizing for the support of teachers and education. And he was in jail for a year, and while he was in jail, his wife gave birth to their first child, and they lost their home, and she had to go live with her parents in Los Angeles. And this man was, he was not an Arnold Schwarzenegger. He was not a wild, heroic figure. He was an artist and an actor, but he said, there's some things I just won't do. And so he's dear to our hearts, as is in our history a little later on, Dean Albright from Fresno State, who was the dean of students during the 1960s. He lost his deanship because he promoted the free speech of students and started the free speech area. Wow. So the history of the Unitarian Universalist Church in Fresno involves a tremendous amount
of prophecy. And
there is a prophetic voice in what we do. And so during the 60s, of course, we were involved with civil rights and with the United Farm Workers and with real concern about stopping the war in Vietnam. And those kinds of things have been involved in our history. Meanwhile, what we struggle with is keeping spiritually grounded as we do all this social justice work. And so that's kind of my job.
We have to take our break at this time, but when we come back, we'll continue finding out more about Unitarian Universalism and Bryan Jessup and the ministry that he has been shepherding there here in Fresno. Stay tuned.
For over 25 years, KNXT has been serving the people of the San Joaquin Valley with good family television that's just not available anywhere else. It's important for you, the viewer, to help support this valuable tool of ministry. KNXT needs to continue to grow and bring you important programming about your faith. But sometimes it's hard to stop and find the time. Make it easy. Go to KNXT.TV and find out how easy it is to support your Catholic television station, KNXT TV.
Hello again, and welcome to the second part of my conversation with Bryan Jessup, the retiring pastor at the Unitarian Universalist Church of Fresno. Bryan, you gave us a little overview of the history. Now we're going to do a little slideshow, if you don't mind. We'll put up some pictures that you'll be able to help us walk through. The first one, I think, would be showing the beautiful new church with those solar panels. Tell us how important environmental concerns are to the Unitarians.
Well, central to our faith is the concept that we live in an interconnected web of life, and that the Spirit of God, or the mystery of life, is manifest all around us, and we're just part of that web. So if the Great Commandment says we should love the Lord with all our heart, soul, mind, and strength, that certainly includes the universe, and the neighbors as ourselves includes the animals and the trees and the waters and the land and the air. And so when it came time to build our building, about 2000, the year 2000 or so, our people said, we will build green and we will absorb the added cost, and it actually was a tremendous boost to fundraising to say we're committed to building green. So we chose an architect who builds green, and we worked with the United States Green Building Council. They have a series of requirements or things that you can achieve to get a particular status. It's called Leadership in Environmental and Energy Efficient Design, LEED certification, and there are 4 or 5 levels, and there's basic and bronze and silver, gold, and platinum, and we got a gold level LEED certification. We had a tremendous project supervisor, George Berman, who's a retired naval engineer, and it was so the universe is good to us. It manifests George right when we needed him, and here was the project of his life too, to get to build this building. It was a little more fun than building Navy buildings, a little more creative.
I'm sure he felt better about that.
And then the challenge is, as hard as it is to build a building, it's even harder to change our lives and change our patterns of consumption and change our use of fossil fuels. So we have moved into our building, but to be true to it, we have to keep working on ourselves and invite other people to that consciousness. And so Earth Day has been organized out of the Unitarian Universalist Church for several years. Now this year it's grown, so it's going to be downtown on Saturday, April 20. It's going to be at the County Courthouse Park, and that's wonderful. So it's not going to be on our campus, but we're involved, and once again, so we've decided to grow to be a little bigger, and that way we can join hands with other people and help organize things.
Let's see some organizations or some organizing that's gone on. There's a slide now that shows you at the dedication of the church, which might be nice to see. There you are. Now the next one shows us our good friend Father Perry. Do you want to say a word about Father Perry and your connection with him with the Interfaith Alliance?
Yes, very much. People in the Diocese of Fresno know what a unique and wonderful gift Father Perry is. But I want to say he is absolutely unique. But he does not stand alone. Bishop John was unique. Bishop Armando is unique. And I have met a number of Roman Catholic. Lisa Apper, what a tremendous person. Mr. Jim Grant has the fire in him. And the fire that we share goes back to the Great Commandment and the Beatitudes and Jesus' announcement of his own ministry, which we share in common. So Jesus says, the Spirit of the Lord is upon me because he has anointed me to preach the good news to the poor. He has sent me to heal the brokenhearted, to preach deliverance to the captives, recovery of sight to the blind. I think that's particularly for you and me. And to set at liberty, all those who are oppressed. He has sent me to proclaim that now is the time, and this is the acceptable year of the Lord. Well, Father Perry has that mission in his heart. I have that mission in my heart. You have that mission in your heart. Bishop John and Bishop Armando have that mission in their heart, and we speak slightly different languages, but that mission glows. So Perry at our dedication, the dedication of our building, was just magnificent, talking about that mission of love and the Universalist circle of making that love big and not backing away from it. So he quoted a Universalist poem that says, they called us heretics and things to flout and drew a circle that cut us out, but we and love had the wit to win. We drew a circle that took them in. And Perry challenged us to keep drawing that circle bigger and bigger. And I know that's at the heart of the Catholic mission, but you're carrying thousands of years of history and tradition, and Unitarian Universalism is a little more like jazz. It's a classical music as compared to jazz. And
a lot of improvisation.
Yes. Let's see, who was acting bishop when Bishop John died? It was Monsignor
Arcata.
I was on a panel with him, and we got to talk about our faith. And his presentation was so lovely, and his heart was so lovely. It lit me up. And then, but I said when I got up to talk after, I was immediately after him. I said, "Well, okay, now we're going all the way from the wonderful Catholic tradition and St. Augustine and St. Ignatius and one of St. Francis. We're going all the way to John Coltrane. And
it's a jump.
It's a little bit of a jump, but the fire is the same. And the music, how many kinds of music are there in the world? And so, but Father Perry understood that. He is a dedicated Roman Catholic, but he's an appreciator of music.
He is?
Of various kinds of music.
Now, another person that is, we need to see his picture, and you can tell us a little bit about your commitment also to the West Side and what you've done with the African-American pastors. Floyd Harris has become a good friend and another social advocate. Tell us about Floyd a little bit and your connection with the African-American community.
Okay, going back then to the mission of Jesus and to set at liberty all those who are oppressed. Well, many people are oppressed in our society, and there is a racial component to it. But underneath that, deeper even, there's an economic component to it. Yep. And our economy is not immoral, it's amoral. It's a huge capitalistic machine that does wonderful things, but also it's like nuclear energy. It can blow us up, and it can cause tremendous unintended radioactive fallout. And what happens now is that our economy works in such a way that it has one concern, and that's profit. Its concern is not the welfare of the human community or the welfare of the earth. Its concern is profit. That's the way the system works. And it also is a system that pits people against people. It's a competitive system. So we get the paradox today of the United States economy working really very well. It's improving a lot. The economy is improving, except it's improving for a very few winners at the very top. Yeah. And people who are middle class or poor are getting poorer. And disproportionately, there's unintentional racism and fallout. And part of that economy, as Michelle Alexander says, is unintentionally we have created a prison industrial complex. So there's big money to be made in prisons. Well, if you have big money to be made in prisons, who are going to be the prisoners? It's going to be poor people, and who are disproportionately people of color. The poverty rate in the United States, according to the University of Wisconsin Institute on Poverty Study, is 15%. For African Americans and Hispanics, it's not 15%, it's 27%. For single moms, it's 31%. 25% of the children in this country are growing up in poverty. And in our system, poor people who are oppressed misbehave and then become prisoners in the system. So you can start and see it in kindergarten. Some people are going to be the guards and some people are going to be the prisoners. And there's a racial component to it. And Pastor Harris has that on his heart. The Reverend Dr. Karen Crozier has that on her heart. And we Unitarian Universalists have that on our heart. And the Diocese of Fresno has it on its heart. with Father Jim Rood and with Maria Telesco, you have advocates who are saying the way we have arranged our prison system is ungodly. And once again, I am so grateful for the diocese for, okay, I'm a Unitarian Universalist. We were part of the Radical Reformation, so we have our critique. But God bless us all, so much of Jesus' original message still survives in a beautiful way, and you carry it out with power. Unfortunately, with power when you do things imperfectly, that's powerful too. But the heart is there, and Bishop Ochoa stands where Bishop John stood. Yeah. How courageous was it that Bishop John stood against the war in Iraq? Exactly. You know, it's one thing for a Unitarian Universalist minister to do that. It's expected of us. But Bishop John did that, and he said, that's an unjust war.
He did.
And so why am I excited about the Forum for a Better Understanding and what you have done? It's because it takes that love of Jesus and that call to put that love and justice into action. And it says, oh my goodness, we're Catholics. We do this on KNXT. We say, here's what we're doing as Catholics, but there are other people in God's creation. So Catholic means universal. And in a sense, this program really helps the church live out its universal mission.
You know, we only have about 2 minutes, but I wonder if Gonzalo can be showing some, we've got a minute, so I think we're going to have to go like this. Gonzalo, if you can find one of the last pictures, it'll be nice to have it up. The last 6 pictures are all about our final farewell that we gave you and Edie. Do you want to say anything about how it was in the next 30 seconds to know that this community loves you very much and is sorry to be seeing you leave, especially those in the Interfaith Alliance? We had a wonderful farewell.
Yes, it was a wonderful farewell. The Islamic Cultural Center has played a very large part in the Interfaith Alliance. Imam Sayed Ali Ghazvini is one of the co-chairs, along with Natalie Chamberlain now from the United Christian Church, and Nagan, the assistant at the Islamic Cultural Center, is very helpful with that too. And so it is, we're talking about the love and justice at the center, and it's reflected in the Interfaith Alliance. Father Perry was co-chair with me for 10 years. It's reflected all around, and so you can see that love there, and the work for justice across various religious cultures and languages.
I want to thank Reverend Bryan Jessup for being here today for what may be the last time this time, because our program is ending and his tenure here in Fresno is also coming to an end. We will be in touch with Bryan and keep you updated about the ministry that he leads up in Arcata. Until then, God bless. Hope to see you next week on the forum. Bryan, thank you for everything.
Thank you, Jim.
God bless.